So I'm really excited to share this conversation with you. You're going to meet Virginia in just a moment. Virginia lives in Bretagne, France, which is the northernmost region in France. She described it as the French countryside. And so one of the many things that I love about this conversation is you'll get a bit of a glimpse into some cultural differences between the United States where I live and France. So I think that's super cool. And I guess a couple of notes before you watch. Each of us, myself and Virginia, in this conversation identify ourselves as either a starseed or a being not from here. And if that is an experience that resonates somewhere inside of you when we use that language or that frame of understanding, stay curious about that and know that you are welcome here. I'm glad that you found this video. And I hope that you enjoy the experience of watching it and that you feel seen when you watch it. If that's not something that resonates for you, not in any part of your being, it sounds like nonsense, maybe even makes you a little bit scared to think about, that's okay. There's still stuff in here for you too. And I hope that you'll continue to watch. But as you do, I hope you will allow yourself to be aware, to notice if there's any points in the conversation where Virginia or myself say something that makes you distracted, that pulls you away with questions or concerns about what you're hearing. I hope you'll take note of that, and I hope you'll go inside and ask yourself, like, what is that bringing up for me, and why? What do I feel? Sending you so much love for that journey. So before we get into it, I want to say two things out loud. I am no longer a practicing psychotherapist, and I made the decision to let that lapse. And what you'll hear in this conversation, in this episode, will help you to understand a little bit more about how I came to that decision, and invite you to consider that maybe there is more to understand about this experience of health and our bodies. So I hope that you'll stay open to what you hear here. And second thing, Virginia and I are just two souls on the journey. And in this conversation, we do not seek to offer any medical advice. That's not what this is about. We're here talking about our own experiences. And yeah, I hope you honor that. So without further ado, thank you again, Virginia. This was such a gift to me. Thank you for sharing your brilliant mind and your beautiful heart with me in this conversation. Thanks for showing up. All right, let's get into it. Enjoy.
I don't have to do anything, do I? Because I don't know what to do. No. Okay, good.
Hi, Virginia.
Hi.
Hey. So anybody who chooses to watch this video, I just want them to know that you and I have spent a couple minutes just chatting with each other and connecting, tuning in, and I'm super grateful. So let's get started. Would you be willing to share a little bit about what prompted you, like what made this a good idea for you
to chat with you? I think, first of all, your eyes and your gaze, which is very sparkly, and called to me. Even the first time I saw like a picture of you on the Facebook QHHT groups, I was like, ooh, I like that light in your eyes. And just the energy that just shone out of you, I felt like I would be comfortable hanging out with you. And so I felt, one more reason I should have, I regretted not going to Sedona.
I remember your video. Yeah.
So that was one thing. And then the other things is I resonated so strongly with what you said. The only thing that I know is I don't know anything, right there with you. And I really love talking. Actually, it's funny because one of our sisters, let's call her as another QHHT practitioner, just posted something today about how what you love doing is what you're meant to be doing. And I answered her post by saying, I guess I'm meant to be chatting people's ears off then.
That's your lane.
I love to be talking to people who share something. And there's so much that you and I share. So yeah, let's talk. Let's be raw. Let's not practice anything. Let's not put any filters and be. That's awesome. It's fab. And the other thing was the other day, and I told you about this already, but not the world, is that a friend of mine and I were having a very in-depth soul-to-soul conversation the other day. And I had that thought, like, if this were recorded, I think people would really get a kick out of listening to us at the moment. And then I saw your invitation. I was like, how serendipitous. I know, right?
Yeah.
It was just the right time as well. Like it made total sense. And I was coming out of a phase of very intense physical pain because of what looks like endometriosis, but I don't want to label it because I don't want to like, pin myself down to it and like start believing in it and giving it value. But just down there, lots of pain and feeling like I was in a total haze and disconnected from my ability to connect with my higher self or like to even reach out to the people that usually bring me passion and excitement and bubbliness and yay, which is the QHHT fam. And it was just awesome to see that invitation the day that I saw it and to connect with you. And the fact that you were like, yeah, let's do it. It was like, okay, I needed that kind of thing. Sort of like a hook fished me out of my little mud.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm really excited. In our little pre-chat, what seemed to be evident for both of our journeys right now would be a conversation about health, maybe more,
Yeah.
and the journey that each of us has been on, which has been unique and beautiful and continues to unfold with our bodies and our brains.
Yeah.
Like what was coming up for this conversation, and so. Thanks for sharing your motivation or inspiration. And yeah, I know that you made available to me a recording on YouTube of you
Yeah.
speaking with another human about your mental health journey. And that was a gift to learn that about you. And like I shared earlier, like it left me wanting more because I really want to connect with you and know you. So,
Well, it's interesting because you know how there's body, mind, and soul, spirit, whatever. And your journey with MS is a miracle journey because people don't usually like go, hey, I'm good now. And my journey with bipolar disorder, and of course, these names are um, just inherited by the filter through which you see them, which is the medical community's filter. So, according to doctors' eyes, you don't recover from bipolar disorder. Like, it's not possible to be stable after having such a diagnosis without meds, without any treatment and stuff. So, I think from doctors' points of views, we would either be miracles or complete frauds.
I think it was miracle because it feels like a miracle for me. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have had that response from people before when I'm like, I don't have symptoms anymore. I don't even say I'm healed or I'm cured or like whatever. And people are like, it must have been a misdiagnosis. Or like, what is she talking about? She's a mental health patient. Let's not believe her.
Totally. And that hurts my when you say it, but I know it's the truth.
It is. I'm totally cool about it now. Like I don't care what they think. It's just meaning it's their lens, it's their journey, it's their belief. They're with it. It's fine. It doesn't impact me anymore, kind of thing. But I'm equally curious as to like having more information about your journey because you did share that Joe Dispenza's work was so important in your journey, but that's sort of like a very broad perspective, but the nitty-gritty detail of how you went through it as a person is super interesting as well. So that could be hours of conversation just
I'm gonna grab that. Let's do that. I can start there because I'm super proud to start there. And I give credit to Joe Dispenza, not because he's a guru in my life or anything like that, but he definitely was a teacher that, in all honesty, he'd been breadcrumbing his way into my life since like
Mhm.
2000. He did some documentaries and stuff like that. And what he said and maybe his presence got my attention. And I didn't know what to do with it for a lot of years. But when he showed up in my life, he had exactly what I needed to learn um, that I had power in my situation because I had forgotten that life. unfolded in a way that I now can look back in retrospect on this spiritual journey and appreciate that I went through about a 10-year initiation. That was purifying for me, but that was also including a dark, dark night of the soul. I had some wandering to do. And I stand here today where I'm on my path, like fortified by that wandering and grateful for it. But it was crazy. And my MS journey, like when you said my journey with MS, I love that today I have an activation in my nervous system that wants to challenge that being associated with me. And that was a journey of getting there. And it started with the work of Joe Dispenza. He's not a guru to me, he's a teacher, and he's remained committed to honing his truth according to himself and what he was seeing with folks. He kind of has this mobile laboratory in his event. And they capture every data byte that they can about those experiences, which I love. But I'm getting off track. Joe Dispenza shows up, and everything he said just resonated with me so deeply that I couldn't not pay attention. And when you listen to some of the testimonials that he makes available, like his body of work, you'll hear everybody talk about moving into this place of like almost obsession. Like there becomes a point on the journey wherein I was compelled to expose myself to what I was learning, to the extent that my brain could be changed by it. So I did that. And it wasn't because I was forcing myself to, I was compelled to. Some of that, I think, is, my leaning in toward truth. And, other parts of it might be how he conveys it. But I just started diving into what he makes available. I didn't spend a ton of money. I didn't go to one of the retreats. I read all 5 of his books, starting at the beginning with his first one, Evolve Your Brain. And for those who don't like science, it's a dense scientific book. But I loved it. And it was the perfect way for me to start that journey. But I've now, where I stand on my path, read his books, some of them 3 times, but all of it at least twice. I've watched, the free content that he makes available on YouTube. And I got a subscription to Gaia Network for a little while, and I watched this program on there called Rewired. I lost count the number of times I watched that because it's just so well made and concise. If you're not somebody who would sit and read 5 books, you're going to get a significant awareness from this 13 episode series.
Right.
So I recommend that. But all the while, what I was hungry for was health. I knew that I had to get my body well again. And Joe Dispenza, what he was offering me was a roadmap to get there, not as he designed it, but based on ancient texts, ancient about hermetic principles, deeply spiritual stuff, meditation, all these things were a combination, as well as neuroimmunology, all of these advanced scientific methods that allow the possibility of the quantum field, and something that the medical model, I think in pockets in the United States, is starting to consider has some merit and could be in an integrated way with the current system added as maybe an adjunct. We're not there yet, but it's a process.
Let's hope it's going to go in that direction.
Me too. But this journey with Joe Dispenza, was when I really focused and did the work every single day, 3 months investment of my time. And in that 3-month investment of my time, where I put myself and my healing journey ahead of everything else in my life, which was new for me. And I came to learn on the journey part of why my body was acting in the ways that it was, because I had no self-love. I could speak to it, but the necessary choices and behaviors and routines that would support that being true were totally absent in my life. In fact, I had a bunch of routines and choices and pattern behaviors that were intending to kill me, slow and painful death. And so this journey with Joe Dispenza's work created patterns in my life of healthy routines, like getting up early in the morning and doing a morning meditation for the 25 minutes or whatever, committing to doing the evening meditation that he makes available in the evenings. Those two journeys offer, people who really love 12-step communities, like the AA community, the structure of that, it gives a program for living is how it's referred to. These two meditations functioned in that way for me. It got me in the morning, quieting my mind before my mind got taken away by everything externally. And it invited me to consider and project into my mind's eye. That's how my brain works. I can visually go to places, but to start looking at the future that I wanted for myself, it got me really allowing myself to consider the possibility that I could be well again. Because like you and the diagnosis of bipolar disorder, it's the manifestation of symptoms that doctors called multiple sclerosis in my body. It's also something characterized as something that's not curable. It really has a projection of like degradation over time that's hopeless. And I was given that label at 33 years old. I was in graduate school. I was just sort of moving into a second career, but like a different prime in my life. And there was no time for that diagnosis. And so I said yes when doctors prescribed me stimulants to manage my energy levels. I said yes to psychotropic medications that were given to me for like an off-label reason of trying to calm my parasympathetic nervous system. I submitted to urinalysis where I knew that things were going to be found in my system that at the point, actually, let me back up. I said yes to the stimulants and was moved through many versions of the stimulant, ever increasing in their either duration of action or like potency. Until one day, my physician, without asking me a single question about my stress level, my lifestyle, my activity level, any of those things. I'm like, your blood pressure today is a little high, so I'm going to discontinue the stimulant medication. We're going to watch your heart. And at that point, my body was physically addicted to those substances. But I also, with their help, built a life that was not sustainable if I didn't have energy. And so in that unconscious survival, how am I going to make this work place? I, as a substance abuse counselor, licensed therapist, started making decisions that were more aligned with survival, keeping my life going, keeping my body upright and moving in a forward direction. And my values started to erode. So I would find ways to acquire those substances in order to continue using. And that, as you can probably imagine, snowballed into a place that became I was no longer making choices anymore. I was just in a process, I'd surrendered my ability to choose. Based on a handful of survival decisions, one made after the next, And so the moral of the story that I've come to today, having had the experience that I had with Joe Dispenza, which resulted in me having objective data in the form of MRI scans that showed what I was doing, both in my choices and in my spiritual opening that was received through the work of Joe Dispenza, because I just started getting well again and considering that my body is as important as my emotions, is as important as my, spiritual life. I moved toward balance with Joe Dispenza's work. I remember the day that I realized that I could breathe, that I had moved my body out of fight or flight. That was in January of 2023. I have such a clear memory of it because it was such a profound experience of realizing, oh shit, I've never felt like I could relax.
Do you know what allowed you to relax so much that day? What do you feel was like the tipping point?
Hmm.
Because I understand that there's a process behind it. I get it. But was there anything that like triggered an extra layer of,
I think I had arrived at a point of like doing the work of the meditations every day and every evening, and showing up for myself,
yeah,
like going to the gym and making better food choices and reestablishing relationships, for the ones that I had disappeared on when I was in this dark place. I had some apologizing to do and taking accountability. I started living right. And there was just one day, this day in January 2023, where I think the gift of those choices was this experience of moving my nervous system out of this like fight or flight place into a place where I could rest and restore. And
wow,
it was 4 months after that January experience that I had the MRIs, and those MRIs resulted in all 4 studies of my nervous system, showing that I had no evidence of active disease in my body. It didn't say that I didn't have like archival
yeah,
things that could be perceived on this image. That was not what I was going for. What I was going for was part of me anyway. I knew what I was doing was working, and I knew that I was well again. I knew that I was healed. Um, and this was just giving me confirmation.
yeah.
Now, when I got those reports back, I had to wait to see a neurologist who was going to like interpret the reports, but I could read them.
Mhm.
And when I got to that appointment, new neurologist, and the experience I had with this person was that he looked at all 4 of those scans and like confirmed out loud that in fact there was no evidence of active disease anywhere in my 4 scans. He said, "Well, we need to start you on medication." And
Wait, what?
I had that reaction, and we had this sort of back and forth where it was becoming a common experience for me that about 3 questions into like a new doctor interview kind of situation, they stop listening, and they've already decided, you know, who you are and what you're going to get out of this experience.
Okay.
So that was happening again. And I said, can we just pause for a second and like, I don't know, celebrate that this, evidence is there that my body is not showing any evidence of active disease. And he pushed and pushed and pushed. And he gave a concession of like I guess, a compromise that he would hold
Mhm.
off on the medications for a period of 1 year. And then I would have scans again. And then I would have no choice in the matter. I would have to go on medication.
Oh,
And
because he assumed the scans would get worse.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So I left that experience changed and empowered, recognizing that I get to choose my body journey, and I wasn't getting what I needed living in the experience of being a person with multiple sclerosis. I ran my body into a wall and avoided the work that I really needed to be doing to address what I now have come to understand were manifestations of emotional and
yeah,
spiritual
yeah,
issues, energetic issues.
yeah.
That is a gift because it not only like gives me my power back, uh, my power and ability to choose what's
Mhm.
right for me and what aligns with my soul. Um, that feels remarkable. Uh,
Yeah.
but it also keeps me accountable to staying in my body, to listening to it when it's speaking to me, and
Mhm.
doing the things that I've come to understand help me be well today, and I spent a lot of years not living well. And so this is new for me. And so it takes practice and it takes patience. And it is likely to be a journey that's going to continue to unfold over time.
Are
Um,
you managing to carry on and have the healthy habits continue over time?
yes. And
Yeah. Cool. Well done.
yeah, yes. And I would say building and becoming more, diverse, and that helps me to feel like I'm living again because I wasn't living for a long time. I was surviving. And
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
now my body works in ways that feel healthy and that make me feel as though I have evolved my experience out of being a person who lived under that identity. It became
Yeah.
what
Yes.
I
Yeah.
allowed.
That's what they do. That's what they do, though. They label you and they give it to you as an identity and they say you are that, you know?
And so all of this, I now see where I'm at on my path. And it's been such a gift. The spiritual gift of the QHHT practitioner journey is, I can't even, quantify that. It's been so beautiful in my life. And, incorporating what I've learned through QHHT, Dolores' teachings, and also Julia Cannon's Soul Speak
Mhm.
associated program, as well as other authors that speak on that topic. I'm not saying that they're the only people who speak to the idea that we are able to heal our bodies are able to heal itself if we get our egos out of the way and we start listening to what doctors would call symptoms are. Those messages are trying to get our attention and
Yeah.
invite us to a co-creative collaboration of health in our life. And I'm happy to be on that journey today as
Yeah.
opposed to the other one because I feel
No kidding.
agency and I have choice and love that.
And I have a question. What would you say your beliefs are now? Because you said before that you didn't really pay attention to your body and there was no love for your body. What are your new beliefs now after this whole journey about yourself?
Yeah, that is a great question. And what's coming forward right now is it's been such a beautiful soul journey. Like when I zoom all the way out and I give myself the grace of considering that I chose everything, every experience that
Mhm.
I'm having in this life as an opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
And that I came into this life having chosen the souls that are going to be the teachers in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're going to even my parent. I chose my parents and the experiences that they were able to give me um, that would create in me
Yeah.
this being who's moving through this soul journey with this program of lessons that we're seeking to understand. Like that, that's the lens that gives me freedom today. And so from
Yeah.
that lens, the story that I tell myself about myself is that I'm fucking brave and I'm strong. Like I'm a warrior. And that's been evident. I've had that reflected back to me at every age of my life. And it showed up in different ways, even in the form of being an MS warrior. Like I became that identity in such a fucking brave way.
Yeah.
That's who,
Yeah.
you know, and I can see that now. But the journey that I went through as, someone who also identifies as a being not from here, I
Yeah.
came into this life um, without the saddlebags of karma I've come
Yeah.
to understand about myself. And that's evident when I look back at my life and how it's unfolded. I've been divinely protected through some really dark experiences, but I
Mhm.
can appreciate that maybe vibrationally that was necessary for me to be able to do the work that I'm here to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Even in those dark times when I was in the throes of addiction and the life of addiction that I chose to be in order to gain and maintain access to what I was getting into.
Yeah.
It's a different realm. And I knew I wasn't going to live there forever, but I was there. And when I was there, I was so grateful to connect with people
Mm.
who had had a lot of darkness in their life and
Yeah.
just our interactions. I'm talking dealers or people that would sit with me for 8 hours at a time at a casino and just be a zombie. We would talk and they would
You
tell
were
me.
practicing your QHHT sessions, chatting for 8 hours straight with somebody.
And I was also helping people to move some things around that they might not have otherwise moved around for themselves.
Yeah,
And that's beautiful. And it's the
it
truth.
is beautiful.
And now I can give myself grace for that dark time in my life. because it was not a time where I was off the clock for my larger soul mission.
Yes, definitely not.
Like there were powerful interactions that I had with people who were in the 3D realm, like helping me to continue my behavior, getting me my
Yes.
supply. Yeah, those were beautiful connections. And I
Mhm.
remained safe through situations that I was putting myself in were not always safe.
Yeah.
Yet I remained divinely protected.
Well,
And
yeah.
sorry, I'm
No,
going,
no, go for it.
I want to know more about you. Let me bring it to a close. So those are the stories that I tell myself today because they give me freedom. They keep me in my heart. They keep me aware of the ways in which I can get distracted from the awareness that I just have to stay in my heart, and
Yeah.
everything else figures itself out. And in fact, like doors open and road appears when I do that. And so
Yeah.
I'll keep telling those stories today because I didn't get where I need to go living inside the old stories. That's what
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
A story that comes to mind for me when I listen to your story, which is just another story, another lens, another perspective, is it sounds to me like you were an undercover agent.
And I love that about me.
Like, huh, what's it like to be a human who chooses to forego of any sense of responsibility or power for themselves and to just let themselves be guided by life instead of being an owner of one's own journey? And what is it like to be oblivious to love and be oblivious to choice and be oblivious to lessons and responsibility and light? What does that feel like? And then after a little while going, hey guys, there's another way out of this. Can I show you the way? That way is nicer.
Yeah, and a lot more sane. Yeah.
So it sounds kind of like you, in a way, an agent planted in there to like see what it's like and then, kind of be a light to follow, like a guideline out of the muck for other people who might have been in the same type of muck. And so before we chatted on the video, you said how nobody had mentioned to you that you were on a path of self-destruction. And what got from that is how could they have known? Because they are as well, most people. And of course, it's confronting when somebody actually takes responsibility for their own life and for their own choices and for their own direction, because that actually means going from this place of slowly dying towards this place of quickly living in a way, because it's not life to just be passively reacting and feeling like a victim. That's not living, that's suffering. It's, like you said, the difference between surviving and living. And I really talk from experience there as well because, of my journey. So it's hard to spot something when you're in the throes of it yourself. Um, however, however many people have been like, ooh, by your discourse about taking responsibility and reclaiming your power, that's going to have planted seeds. And a bunch of people, maybe years from now, will go, hey, wait a minute. And maybe the time will make it possible for that flower to bloom within them of, hey, that's a possible journey. But those conversations are not wasted, even if people react that way. Even those doctors who have that frame of mind that's so closed off might one day go, check it out, that lady, you know, and that might open a kind of door. So I don't know if that resonates or helps at all, but that's kind of came to mind.
Everything that you said there was medicine for me today. Thank you, Virginia. I feel like you spoke to in such a beautiful, descriptive way that it helped me to see myself in a different way. And I'm
Cool.
grateful. Yeah.
I mean, only take it if it resonates. Like it's just a point of view. but sometimes they can help so much. Changing perspectives is massive. I have another question for you, if you don't mind sharing. How comfortable are you saying I love myself today? Is that something that you manage to say and feel to the depths of your being?
I don't, I say it so carefree today. And I'm also receiving this moment as an opportunity to inquire within, because I really haven't thought about it in that way. And so I'm grateful because I say it very freely today and I feel it in my heart. It comes freely when I speak from my heart because I know that that's where the truth lives today. And I'm grateful for that. So my sort of impulse is to say yes, like 100%.
That's awesome.
Leave it today.
That is so cool.
There's a lingering program probably in there somewhere that's coming out, getting rid of, that's wanting me to question that. Or maybe it's a good thing that I'm giving myself pause, and I'll continue to ponder that. But that feels like the truth.
That's awesome. That's one that I'm not sure I'm completely there yet. I did used to hate myself and think that I wasn't worth living and that the world would be better off without me. And I did, I mean, I hope people who are watching it are not going to be shocked by this, but I did try to kill myself. And attempted suicide sometimes shocks people. I'm good now. In case people are like, ooh. Because I hated myself and because I thought I was a bane on this planet rather than, any form of help. And I have come a really long way from that moment. But saying and feeling and really like having an outburst of I love myself is not something that I've reached yet. And there's still something that needs to click that I feel like, hasn't fully happened yet. And I can't put my finger on it. Like, I don't know what it is that is still there. Is it an old program or not? Or is there something still like, I don't know, but it's not an easy thing for me to do. So I'm so happy that you can say that because that's like so beautiful.
Just stay curious. I mean, you know the path, right? If you are seeking the answer, it's also seeking you. I believe that.
Right. Yeah. I haven't actively asked myself that. This is like the question of can you actually say it just popped up now. And I was like, I realized that every time that I say I used to hate myself, I never say now I love myself. I always say, and now I'm good. And so the question of why can't I just arrive like now? So, good things to ponder on.
That's right. Beautiful. So thank you for inviting me on that journey of telling that story. There's really only a handful of times that I've allowed myself to tell it. And every time I tell it differently. And I see that.
Of course. And you will every time because you're a different you every time. I have a fly saying hello. Hello. Yeah, the narrative of our own journeys in our own lives is really massively important because it shows where we're at the moment. And the narrative is going to be different from day to day and from minute to minute because you're not the same person. So you would have a different narrative on where you've been and, your journey and what it means to you now, right? And it's interesting how looking at it in a different way just transforms it so completely. And there's also this possibility, and I don't know if you listen to Bashar at all. It's channeled by Daryl Anka. You do? Yeah. It usually resonates wildly what he says, but there are things that I'm like, wait, what? I don't understand. My brain doesn't follow.
Same.
Same. Okay, cool. And one of the things that he says is we're shifting timelines every like nanosecond, and that the point of view that we're speaking from is like a parallel reality to any other one that we've ever experienced in a way. And so that hazy memory that we might have of the past maybe is a different one. And so maybe it's not just that our perspectives on our past has changed, it's just our past is completely different. And we are a different person every time that we sit, like every moment. So that one gets me all,
I just felt things sort of like, yeah, that's an intense one to sit with. Yeah.
That's an intense one, but it sometimes feels like that because I don't feel like I'm the same person at all as I was when I was a kid. It's like it's even really hard for me to remember any of a lot of people who come in sessions. Do you have a lot of people come in sessions tell you like I have a really bad memory about my own existence? Because
Uh, I feel like the people who are coming in for me, being pulled to me, there's an alignment there around like a certain kind of trauma release. And so a lot of
right.
people having for the first time an opportunity to tell their stories with somebody who has an open
Yeah.
hold a container. So that's kind of the folks I'm with so far.
Okay. Because I have two main storylines that come to me, the ones that have had the massive trauma that they've never been able to talk about. And so like Dolores said in the training, I've heard it all. I really do think I've heard it all by now. Um, and the ones that are more on the starseed side of things and that are completely alien to this planet and don't understand how, what, who, and they tend to have very little memory of their own lives and their own past. And that's really my case. I mean, people sometimes ask me a question. I'm like, well, that was more than 5 minutes ago, so I can't answer. Like literally, that's something I said, like, what's more than 5 minutes ago? So I don't know what's going on there, but maybe I am indeed shifting timelines so much that I'm like, hey, wait, what? Huh? What? Who
Understand that.
knows?
I understand that in my bones, yes.
Yeah.
Uh,
Cool.
So I want to invite you to share. I know you've got other sources on the internet already where you've shared a little bit about this journey for you, your mental health journey. But
Yeah.
what comes up?
Well, what was your extra question then? Because I could talk about it in many different ways.
Like, so you invited me to the, storytelling from the human that went through the journey.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would offer that as an invitation.
Okay. Um, from the human who went through the journey is an interesting one. The human that's actually a really interesting one because the human who went through the journey is not the same one as the perspective that I have now as a non-human who went through the journey. The human thought that, and that's going to really help me actually. She was not lovable, and through that filter, which goodness knows if it actually started with it's the environment or just was the belief that made it so the interpretation of the environment was, a reflection of that belief. I don't know exactly the chicken or egg thing there, but through thinking that she was not lovable and that she was basically more of a bother to anyone else and that she didn't matter and she was always second. And if she were to live on this planet, she had to prove that she deserved that because there was no place for her otherwise. If she didn't deserve to live, then she should just get out. Um, lived a life of a lot of isolation and of feeling different and isolating herself and choosing not to engage in relationships because it would end up with people realizing how horrible she was and dumping her anyways. And went through life in a hyperactive way of trying to find ways to serve with what she called a pathological need to help.
Yeah. Oh, I get that.
And the only way that she got worth initially was having good grades and working for good grades because those were like an assessment. And that assessment was the only thing that made her think maybe there's something there that's worth something. And so hyperactivity was really a thing. And then psychiatrists have tried really hard to nail me down. And it's been really rough for them to try to know like what label to stick on me. And I've had a lot of labels thrown at me. And before I had a lot of labels thrown at me, I also had to suffer through the lens of a young woman who voices her discomfort. And there's a lot of stigmatization around young women voicing their discomfort, where the received the reception to that is, it's nothing. surely you're exaggerating or hysterical, or you just can't stand pain, or, like belittling and diminishing any experience. And so that little human came to think that her experience of the world had no validity, because everything that she reported, when she finally managed to report, any form of suffering, was just pushed down and shut down and ignored, or like belittled or devalued. And so it's like, oh, there's no worth to even my experience. My experience doesn't mean anything. Everybody tells me it doesn't even exist. Like, what do you mean? You've got good grades, we're fine. Like, actually, there's a lot of suffering going on down here, but if you tell me that even doesn't exist, then like,
I go hang out in my room.
yeah. And I think there was this notion of, it's easier to believe that I'm the problem than to believe that the universe that I've been dumped in is the problem. And I think it was an easier path. And that's from the soul perspective. I think that it was easier for a little human to interpret that from the perspective of this soul who came down to help. It's easier to think, I must be wrong. It's not possible. It can't be that bad. Like, surely the world isn't full of such, right? What changed absolutely everything for me was when QHHT entered my life. That was just a massive bomb, in the best possible bomb way, which destroyed a lot of really yucky stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Um, that's actually a really fun one that you haven't really fully heard about. Is a friend of mine mentioned QHHT a couple years before, and I was like, oh, I'll do that one day. Kind of resonated, but it wasn't time yet. And then a couple years later, she mentioned it again, and I was like, that's it. That's it. And I had this huge, like, ding, 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 it's for you going on. And yeah, it was a time when I stopped the medication that they'd given me for bipolar disorder, because I was suffering a lot from the side effects and they were not okay with me anymore. And I felt like I was strong enough with all the work that I'd done, because I also threw everything at the mental illness. I was diagnosed when I was 36 with type 2 bipolar disorder after a massive period of unraveling, where it was getting really, really bad and out of hand. And I could see that it was actually having a negative impact on the people around me. And so I was like, that's why I sought help, because my pain was hurting others at that point. My behavior and the way that I couldn't function anymore in a way that was positive for others. And I felt like a weight, and I felt like I couldn't maintain the level of help to others that, I ought to implement. And the diagnosis helped in a lot of ways, because it allowed me to have the recognition for the pain. And it was finally, there is something, there is pain, there is discomfort. Wait, somebody listen to me. Like, this validation was massive. And it also shed light on some of the ways that little human was functioning within her body. Right. And all of the mechanisms that had been put in place, like when there was this tendency of going towards depression, it was the part that thought it wasn't worth living, right? That was speaking really loudly. And it was going more towards hyperactivity. It was the part that thought it had to prove that it deserved to live. And so thanks to the lens of the diagnosis, I was able to like watch out for all the mood variations and to implement tricks in a very CBT kind of way, like cognitive behavioral therapy way. And because I did that intensely and threw all of my knowledge at it and all of my NLP and whatever training at I ended up being in a place where I went to see a counselor saying, I'm going to stop the medication. I feel like I need support just in case. And I told her what I was doing, and she said, you are implementing the end of what I try to teach people. Like there's nothing left for me to teach you. You're doing all that CBT teaches people with bipolar disorder to implement. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I've done it all from the lens of psychiatry. I'm going to stop the meds now. And stopping meds gave me this clarity of thinking because they do make you fall asleep. In a way, they dim things down. And in that clarity, I was able to meditate again. And I was able to like sense my guides. And when the QHHT alarm rang really loudly, I went into meditation and I went, all right, is this really for me? And this is the strongest message I've ever received. It was, yes.
Awesome.
How much louder can we get? And I was like, okay.
I love that.
It was really intense. I was like, all right, chill out.
Oh, wow.
And this is interesting because I'd only watched Julia's video on and read the QHHT website, and she explains what is QHHT, is it for you? And I'd just seen what is the program, what does it entail, etc. And I was like, well, should I really do this? And that's what I meditated about. And it was this massive yes. And I was like, but I don't understand. How is it that you have to go see a practitioner to talk to your higher self? Do I have to do that? And I really heard the voice of my higher self saying, there are other ways. And it threw me into a past life. And this is without a practitioner guiding me.
Spontaneous, all right.
It threw me into a past life, and I saw myself in that past life, and my belief shifted thanks to the past life. Instead of being, I have to prove that I deserve to live, it was, I am, and that's enough. And thanks to the experience of the past life, I knew, click, done, I am. And that's enough. There's no going around it. It's just I am, and that's enough. It is. It's not even true. It just is. I am, and that's enough. And because of the drugs, I had really intense constipation. And that night, it just unlocked for 4 nights, and it never was an issue anymore. That night, diarrhea, because it was a lot stuck, but I just got rid of a lot of shite.
That evacuation was powerful. Wow.
It was. And since that night, I haven't had insomnia, which I'd had from when I was 9 to when I was like basically 39, 30 years of insomnia.
I hate to interrupt you. There's a flow. I understand that. But for this moment, could you share what you now have come to understand about the insomnia? Like, what
it was my mind trying to analyze all of the ways in which it should behave to match the belief that I have to prove that I deserve to live. And so it was going, what do I need to do? What could go wrong? In what way have I gone wrong? What have I done wrong? And so it kept going forward to the next day, going analyze, and going back to the previous days or experiences and going analyze. And so it was just constantly going, look for. And since I didn't have anything to prove anymore, it went, oh, okay.
Yeah. Let me go sleep now.
Let's give her a rest.
I love that. Yeah. I'm sorry, I interrupt your flow. Go.
No, that's totally cool. And since that day, which was now 2 years ago, I haven't had a single symptom that, according to the DSM-5, could put me on the map for bipolar disorder. Whereas it was quite difficult not to diagnose me before that. So for me, it was the change in belief, but the change in belief was only possible because I lived the experience of that past life. And it's because I had that experience that I delved into QHHT and the whole magical world that it could give me. It was my higher self way of going, look, it helps. Because I have a very strong Cartesian mind of having to be proved that things work. And I mean, I'm not like, I do live in France where it's like, show me, or there's, like I gotta see it, and it has to make sense. And like my conscious mind is very strong and very logical and very analytical. So it's just like proving every step of the way. It's tiring. But that was like, okay, yeah, let's go. You know, doesn't mean that I was blindly trusting after that. I was still having to prove every freaking step of the way. It's calming down now, but still. And the one that it's having a hard time with is the physical part, because I haven't firsthand witnessed the physical healing, where of like, you know, how they talk about cartilage regrowing, and I haven't seen that yet. And mental health healing, I've had so much of in my office, like so much. People coming with all sorts of mental health problems coming out without them, thanks to QHHT, thanks to their ability to get their own answers and understand and click and put them into place. Like their healings have been, you know, no problem whatsoever. And I've had people come to me with physical issues, and I was like, all right, let's go. Show me. Give me the money. I know it can be happening. I know Dolores saw it happening. And then it doesn't happen. I'm like, crap, I believe.
It'll come. And maybe it will come for those clients who may be on their journey. And this speaks to a part of my journey. I can say I have physical sensations in my body that if I would take that information and give my power away by telling a doctor, would make a decision and try to impose that decision on my life. I choose not to participate in that anymore.
Right.
What instead I do, and I think, you know, maybe is mirrored in that part of your story, like what I choose to do instead today is use it as an opportunity to check in with my body, to ask my body what it's trying to tell me. And it's oftentimes something that immediately when I have a change in like perception or sensation that feels reminiscent of that journey, that leg of my journey in that identity, I pause, and the first thing I do is I remind myself I am powerful, I am strong. You know, I run through this short list of I am statements that kind of give my spirit what it needs in that moment. And that's my initial response nowadays. But then I go through a questionnaire of like, all right, like the basics, right? When's the last time you rested? You know, when's the last time you hydrated? When's the last time you connected with another human and felt seen, like you showed up as your true self and that was reflected back to you? Like, when did you do that? And so it puts me back in the experience of being in a human body, and allows that human body to remember that it can,
that it's a body.
That it can do what it needs to do to.
That's a really good one.
Clear these things for itself.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah. But it doesn't pay insurance
premium. That's my alarm, sorry.
It doesn't, you know, as a former psychotherapist in a variety of settings for 16 years, it is like a living amends, not from a place of shame, but a place of like soul reconciliation that I feel compelled to embody what I've come to understand and learn in my own experience, the potentials of a QHHT session. Because the person that I am today could not fathom entering into a space with another human being and an hour a week for a number of years sometimes, create a space where they come in and tell me parts of their story, parts of themselves, and we kind of swim around in that story for a little while, and we keep that story perpetuated because you know, we talk about it every week for years. That feels like cruel and unusual punishment. That does not resonate with any part of me anymore, and I am grateful. That can't be the best that we can do, and I want to be a part of changing that and evolving.
It's absolutely not the best that we can do. It was something that I think when you look at it historically, giving people a place where they could talk when there was no talking possible because of social, cultural stuff, then yeah, sure, give people a place to talk and express themselves and be them and be accepted open-heartedly and be welcomed and not be judged. That's the origin of it. I know it kind of deviated, but it's like, here, be and you will be welcomed and loved. You know, that to me makes sense, but not the wallowing. Not the repetition, not the anchoring of the problems without an orientation towards what do you want instead, towards that solution, towards that direction, towards that like let's get out of it now and find ways that you can, with your resources, move forward in your direction that you choose to be on. And this is the basis for so many practices that are getting recognized now, like neurolinguistic programming, which I'm a practitioner of, or EMDR, or like, cognitive and behavioral therapy, like all of these, and a lot of hypnotherapy, actually, also the traditional one, not, are geared towards let's implement fast changes for you to feel better quickly, not like years and years and years of psychoanalysis, which is like, why do you still do that, guys? I don't understand. Like,
it moves money around in a system, you know?
no, I know, because QHHT is the worst business model in the freaking world. It's too effective. It's like, you gotta keep finding more people to do one session on.
Yeah. And like my QHHT journey as an intern has been the best. I'm set up to finish 25 inside the container of a year before I started level one. And that I don't hook that to any sort of achievement narrative. Like this is the first experience for me that has allowed me to just be present with the learning that's available, with each opportunity that I have with a person who trusts me with the experience of a QHHT session. I get to learn from that experience in so many ways with each session as a practitioner of the modality. But then on my own soul's journey, I'm given this beautiful access to collective intelligence, to source, to the higher self of the client, that regardless of the questions or curiosities that they have, that they want me as their facilitator to ask while they're in this deep state of relaxation. Like regardless of those questions, something always comes through that resonates as truth for me and that I can carry forward, if I choose to, integrate that information and allow myself permission to believe it's true. When every part of me is telling me that it's true in my heart and I feel it, but there's still a part of my brain that wants to, at sometimes like not do what's necessary to get out of the way so that I can receive, the gift of the information that's coming through.
Yeah.
That it's just beautiful having come out of like academia and the rat race of having a license as a psychotherapist. Like there's all this power dynamics and yuck that gets, and then money all of that. Yeah. It's so complicated. And I just want to be aware of our time. I know we started a little bit after the hour.
No, that's okay. The alarm was just for this hormonal pill that I've decided to accept taking because my body was out of the way. I mean, was not out of the way.
Yeah.
Slip of the tongue, Freudian. I don't know. I basically, in my human experience, there's this part where I believe it's possible to use medicine and spirituality and energy and all sorts of healings together. And so, because the way that I perceive it, and I'd love to know what you think about that, that'd be really cool, actually, because that's the way that I perceive it now. And it might not be the same thing in a couple months or in 5 minutes when I get your answer, is we get things from a past life or from a belief system or from karma or from whatever on the spiritual 5D whatever side of things, or whatever D, because I don't know, and that trickles down into our bodies, and so our bodies express what there is on the energy side, and it can get into the body so that the body changes its way of functioning. And what I believe is that my brain, when I was undergoing the bipolar disorder symptoms, was acting in a way that was changed on the physical level, in a way that the way it was firing, the neurotransmitters, and like that there was something in the brain that was changed physically in the 3D thing. And for me, like the source is the energy side. It's kind of like the faucet, and you can turn it off there And it's going to take time for the rest to trickle down into the body and for the 3D body to actually get the benefit from that healing. And if you never turn off the faucet, you'll keep having the problems in the body. And what my perspective is, what the medical side of things is doing now is just putting band-aids on the manifestations of what's going on with that faucet, but never getting to the root cause. And that's what I'm not happy with. And that's what QHHT does, it goes to the root cause. But I'm not a very patient person. And so I opt for both. I'll go turn off the faucet and I'll put the band-aid on.
Yeah, sure, sure. With
Right?
the awareness that like it's just the last trickle, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And so in the meantime of getting to the root cause in the faucet and being able to turn it off completely for what's happening with the cramping and bleeding and like issues that I'm having with the pain, which is debilitating, is that I've switched medicine and I'm taking a hormonal pill, which I never thought I would do because I really didn't want to have all those hormones coursing through my body. But if the alternative is spending 4 out of 7 of my days lying in bed, cramped up, not being able to do anything and passing out literally from the pain if I stand up, which is not living, then I'm going to be on the pill.
Wow. That's powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. And the inkling that I have is that I'm not done living this experience yet. Like all of the mental health journey that I had, and I really didn't talk about it a lot, but there's lots of suffering throughout years and years and years and years. Without that, I wouldn't be the practitioner that I am today. I wouldn't be the human that I am today, and I wouldn't have evolved in the way that I have today. And I know this links to what you said before of like being able to have gratitude for the journey and for the choices that we've made. And so I know that I came down to experience the gamut of human emotions, and that I very, very, very intensely learned about the whole gamut of human emotions thanks to my mental health journey and my like 7 diagnoses in mental health.
Mission accomplished. I think we both
I
done
know,
it.
right? DSM, check, 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 check.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
That's a text, just in this moment I'll pause. That's a text that I've had iterations of my life where I had studied it so deeply and like allowed myself to absorb it. You know, the physical book would have tabs and everything all color coded.
yeah,
And I lived in the consciousness that was, this is the truth.
yeah.
And I saw the folks that I sat with through that lens. And I missed opportunities to appreciate the fullness of who they were. And
Well, you do, I mean, it is called in the psychiatric world the Bible of psychiatry, isn't it? So, that's a really interesting term actually, because it means they believe it. Yeah. They like have faith in it. And so if you believe it in a blind way and have this blind faith, then you see everything through that lens and that filter, and the rest becomes invisible. And that's a really powerful lesson as well. It's like, thanks to that, you know what that means, and it allows to get out of it and to stop putting, blinders and to see people, right? And that's a hugely powerful, beautiful lesson to go through. Anyways, I can't remember where we were going,
we could
but
go.
I know I didn't have your take on like the Band-Aid and the faucet thing, and I'd love to know what you think about it.
I mean, I'm so grateful for this opportunity to hear the world through your lens, Virginia, and how that lens continues to shift over time. But like this awareness and sort of reverence for the lens that was sort of stuck for a little while, and this identity, became who you understood yourself to be. And this beautiful
Yeah,
coming to a different awareness or a different consciousness of like what was actually going on. And
yeah,
a vehicle to that for you was for a time medications, for a time CBT, and
yeah,
you reached an impasse in your journey with those
yeah,
experiences that was sort of I think it was a gift to have that therapist be aware enough that they of themselves, self-aware enough,
mhm,
that at the moment where you had demonstrated that you had the competency, like you had, implemented CBT to such a degree that she knew that she could no longer sort of
yeah,
guide us further, I wish that happened more often. That was a gift. But yeah, that journey, I think is so important for people to be able to hear. And I'm so grateful that you have experienced those things. And even though they were painful at times, that you can speak to it in the ways that you did today. I think it's going to have huge impact for people who listen to this conversation.
Cool. Do
But
you have 5 more minutes or not? Because like I'm good with 5 more minutes, but do you have 5 more minutes? You do? Okay, cool. Because I remember where we were going when I was talking about the faucet and the Band-Aid, and I was wondering if you had what your view on that was. And the reason that I was talking about that was that pill that I'm on, I'm going to be taking it until I turn the faucet off. But I haven't been able to do that yet. And it's not been the time yet because I haven't experienced what I needed to experience in order to be able to learn all of the lessons or to fulfill the purpose. Because I got to realize recently, not everything has a lesson in it. Sometimes it's just a purpose and you're serving a purpose and it's going to have an impact on somehow something, but it doesn't mean that I'm at fault for not knowing something and I need to fix myself to learn a lesson really quickly to become a better version of myself, right? Because that was a narrative that I had at some point going, I have a symptom. It means there's something I'm doing wrong.
yeah, love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
So I don't
Lighting up a part of it.
feel the whole purpose has been like I'm not there yet. But when I'm there, I will get the answer and I will turn the faucet off, and then I'll stop taking that pill. But in the meantime, I'm taking it. What's your perspective on that? Because you have a whole journey that I'd love to know what you feel about it.
Yeah. So where I'm at on my path today, I don't take anything pharmaceutically. For anything,
Yeah.
I even stop taking Tylenol and ibuprofen. There's this sinus issue around. It's probably some environmental aggravating factor, and I'm still
Mhm.
trying to eliminate things in my environment with that. But I can get a little bit of stuffiness, and sometimes I'll take maybe once a week antihistamine
Right.
medications. I tamp that down. But I've broken the spell that was on my life, that was instilled in me as a young child, growing up. Instead of changing anything in the environment that was aggravating my allergies and causing what was like symptomatically called
Mhm.
asthma back then, like cigarette smoke and dog hair, all of
Yeah.
that environmental factors. Like I was started on medications very young. And so
Okay.
that became my worldview. And I leaned heavily into that when my body started acting in ways that I felt kind of out of control. And somebody was
Right.
giving me medications to control it again.
Yeah.
That was very seductive for me because
Yeah.
I was living a fight or flight existence, which I was just saying with a friend the other day. It's real tricky with when your fight or flight looks like helpful or professional,
Yeah. Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
the trifecta that I think is the death of many women's nervous system is like bright, articulate, and nice. Um, People like that, people like myself, navigate through society in ways that make our pain invisible. Nobody gets
Yeah.
curious. I know that now, and I choose to live differently today. I don't know what anybody else needs to do in their journey, but today I don't take medication. And I'm grateful that when I was given medication trials during that experience of being a person who identified as a person with MS, all of them were so caustic to my system that they all got added one by one to my allergy list. I had just really
Mm.
intense side effects from them that I wasn't able to tolerate. My quality of life went so down. Um, Taking each one of them, I was on 3 different trials for short periods of time because my body just didn't tolerate it. The medications like stimulant medications on the and the occasional opioids, I when the medical system cut me off from that, either not believing that I had pain or not liking my blood pressure on a random day and not asking me any questions about it, um, I started using illicit substances to continue those
Yeah.
journeys. And I share in my conversation with Tara the experience that I had, that it's mystical and I still can't understand it completely today, but it happened. And I share it in that conversation. I went through a healing crisis after this event in my life that I believe cleared out all of the exposure to medications that my tissues had experienced over time, like in a sequential, visually vivid way. That felt like a gift. And I emerged from that feeling no cravings for the things that my body had become very accustomed to taking to function. And that feels like grace. And yeah, that's where I'm at on my faucet and what was the other part of that metaphor?
Band-Aid.
Band-Aid, sorry. On that journey. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
It's really cool.
so grateful for your time. And I'm gonna say thank you for showing up to this. And
Thank you. I love the namaste thing because it's two people coming together as one, but it's also you coming together with yourself. And so it works very well for today's conversation. Thank you so much.
thank you for letting me see you today. Thank you for letting anybody who watches this episode see you. This is who we are. And
This is who we are.
yeah, and I love that. Thank you.